Welcome to Jericho. I'm the daughter of a neighbor of Zacchaeus. You know, the one in the story that you heard about, the tax collector. Luke's taken you on quite a journey with Jesus on his way to Jerusalem, hasn't he? Well, Jericho's the gateway to Jerusalem. You see, we've got the north-south road that passes through here, and then you can go west to Jerusalem. It'll take you about 9 hours on foot. It's quite a climb. You see, Jericho's claim to fame is that we're the oldest city in the world and the lowest. The Dead Sea's just down there, and that's the lowest place on earth, and we're not much higher. Here, do you like oranges or maybe dates? You see, because all the roads pass through here, trade passes through here as well, and you can get everything and anything. And because there's trade, you know what? They tax everything and anything. You know what I mean by tax? You know, it's the money that we have to pay to the government for things like, well, the Roman roads or schools and so on. And those tax collectors lived here in Jericho. And Zacchaeus was a chief tax collector. But his story was amazing. You see, he'd heard that Jesus was coming through Jericho on his way to Jerusalem. Well, all the pilgrims were. Every year they came this way for the Passover festival, and Jesus was doing the same. And this year felt a bit, well, it felt a bit different. See, life under the Romans was getting very hard. Meanwhile, Jesus, well, his following was gathering quite a pace since that first announcement a few years before up in the north in Galilee, you know, that he was preaching good news to the poor, setting captives free and giving sight to the blind. And well, we'd heard all about his teaching. That was amazing. And then the miracles. And more recently, the invitations. Well, he'd been inviting people far and wide, you know, the sorts of people that, well, that the rest of us didn't really see. And certainly we didn't really hang around. Zacchaeus, in a way, was different. He was rich. And, well, the religious leaders said that Jesus was gaining quite a following and going to dinner with tax collectors and sinners. Anyway, where was I with Zacchaeus? You see, he wanted to see Jesus, but the trouble for him was that he was short. And with all of those people piling in, all those pilgrims piling into Jericho, there's no way that he was going to see him. Well, he had this idea. He was going to go down the road, climb that huge sycamore fig tree in the center of town, and see Jesus from there. So that's exactly what he did. Genius. He wasn't going to let his height get in his way. Well, when Jesus came through, we couldn't believe it. He stopped right under that sycamore fig tree and he spoke to Zacchaeus by name. Now, the thing was, he'd never met Zacchaeus and he knew his name. And he said, Zacchaeus, come down out of the tree. I must come to your house today. So he'd never met Zacchaeus, but he knew his name and he wanted to come to his home. I bet Zacchaeus, well, I'm surprised Zacchaeus didn't fall right out of the tree there and then. And the crowd, well, they started muttering. They couldn't believe it, that Jesus was asking to go to the home of a tax collector. I mean, I know he was rich and all that, but really, you know, he was a rank outsider. And yet it was funny the way Jesus put it, I must come. It was as though he knew that he had to do this. Well, I don't know what Zacchaeus made of it. As I say, he came right down out of that tree and he went straight to his house and opened his house up. And well, he prepared a meal and all that for him. It seemed like it was the turning point for Zacchaeus. You see, he'd gone looking for Jesus, but it was Jesus who found him, who saw him up in the tree. And it was as though Jesus didn't care about Zacchaeus' reputation, you know, as being a tax collector and all that goes with that. Well, now I look back, it was though he wanted to show him something completely different. He wanted to show him Father God's love for him, to show him who he was, who Zacchaeus was, I mean, and to say, you're a child of God and you're of infinite worth. You're loved by God. To be honest, we just saw the tax collector like the rest of them. We do that, don't we? We look at others and just see one story about them. That seems to be the opposite of Jesus. He sees right into the heart, and he speaks to people's hearts too. Not that everyone hears him, because not everyone's like Zacchaeus looking. Are we looking, I wonder, like Zacchaeus was? Well, all that care and undivided attention that Jesus gave, well, it just seemed to melt Zacchaeus' heart, because there and then he was a changed man. And it wasn't so much that his behavior had changed. Well, I do know that he jumped up and he said, I've been giving half of my possessions to the poor. And if any of my men, well, if anyone cheats them out of their taxes, I'm not going to pay back double, which was the normal thing to do. I'm going to pay back 4 times the amount. And he was true to his word. We knew from then on where we all stood with Zacchaeus. I mean, I don't know whether he was cheating people out of money before he met Jesus or whether he was an honest man. To be honest, I'd just been seeing him as a tax collector. But the point was, from that moment onwards, he said he was going to do that. He was going to do the right and generous thing. It was like he wanted to do it because of how generous and kind Jesus had been to him in coming to him and being with him. You know, and although Jesus knew Zach wanted to meet him, well, it was Zacchaeus that then opened his home, and that started that beautiful journey for Zacchaeus. He welcomed Jesus in. But what really struck us was Jesus' words. We didn't get it at first because Jesus then went on to say, today salvation has come to this house. The Son of Man has come to seek and to save the lost. Well, we didn't realize it at first, but it's as though Jesus had to come to Jericho and do for Zacchaeus what he was going to Jerusalem to do for everyone, everywhere, right up until this day. Do you remember the parables that Jesus taught us? You know, the one about the lost sheep and the lost coin and, well, the lost son. And that good shepherd who, you know, left his 99 safe sheep and went looking for the one who was lost. Well, that was a bit like Zach. It was as though he was lost. I don't mean that he'd left Jerusalem, I didn't mean Jerusalem. He'd left Jericho and couldn't find his way back. No, nothing like that. But he'd lost his connection with Father God. That was the thing that was lost. And he was living his life independently. But when he met Jesus, he realized it was Jesus who was the one that he was lost from. And, well, he called him Lord straight away. We didn't call him Lord straight away. Zacchaeus got it. It was like he was born all over again. He had this new start in life, and he was just a completely changed man. It's quite a challenge for us, quite a challenge for me. But I don't know about you. You know, did I see Zacchaeus the way Jesus saw him, or was I like the crowds and saw him, well, just for one thing, the reputation that he had, what I thought about him? And then the bigger question that I had was, did I see Jesus like Zacchaeus saw him? You know, Jesus saw Zacchaeus like a long lost brother, and he was full of kindness for him. And he asked to come to his home because Zacchaeus was looking for him. What about me if I went looking for Jesus and said to Jesus, will you come into my heart, my home today? That's a challenge, isn't it? I hadn't really thought about it before, but since Jerusalem and everything and what Jesus did, I too have said to Jesus, come into my heart, come into my life. And I've got that same sort of new life. I've been born again too. I've got his peace and his joy. How about you?